Change worth leading. And I think to create a change worth leading, you first have to create something which is worth it. And only then can the change happen. So let's go back 50 odd years when hospitality was sort of starting in this country. And you had people like the Taj, the Oberoys, the Clarks. These were the old people there. And at that time, hospitality started with this phrase called Atithi Devo Bhava. Gandhiji ne kaha, guest is God. And I think society being what it was, we followed Atithi Devo Bhava. I have been against this saying for the last 2 decades because I do not believe any longer in guest is God. I think those days are gone with. They're gone with because I think your customer is today becoming extremely demanding, which is all right as a customer. But he's also becoming equally arrogant, equally rude, and probably unfair also. And I think you people who come into the industry, there is always talk of long working hours and our salary is not good enough, etc., known. But I think your biggest challenge will be actually how do you meet the rising expectations of this customer? And for me, that is why I think you have to draw a line between hospitality and between subservience. They're two different things. Unfortunately, in our trade today, our hospitality is graying with subservience. And that is why I say it is not about Atithi Devo Bhava. And let's look at what the Ritz-Carlton says. Ladies and gentlemen, serving ladies and gentlemen. What have they done? In one stroke, they've elevated the staff to the level of the guest. And that is how it should be. Because I think in our industry, much as we want to give the guest the leeway of doing what he wants to do, each of us have to draw that line and say, boss, beyond this, I will not let you go. Right? And that is why I say you have to differentiate between subservience and hospitality. So when you create something which is good, this is something which I think our industry does need to keep in mind going forward. Hospitality is also getting into now what I feel a numbers game. And we had Nikhil earlier from Radisson. Earlier, they used to chase 100 hotels, not Radisson, but the industry person. Today, they're chasing 200 rooms. Now, I come from a very different background, which is the boutique space. So my focus will really, my talk will be more in that area of work. I'm not with the big boys, never was. But today, it's the numbers game. So I keep questioning, what is your brand value? What are you standing for as a brand ethos? So what larger brands have done, within their big brand, they've created 20 more brands. And I think that is creating even more confusion because the brand expectation, the brand deliverables are sort of overlapping one to the other. For me, that is not the way you create a business. It is going that way, but in my opinion, that is necessarily not the right way to go. Let's learn how to say no. Today, all brands are talking about eco this, eco that, nature this, nature that, saving environment. And I was shocked to read the other day that a leading brand has gone and signed a 140-room hotel in a wildlife park. Now, for me, when you talk about all the stuff which you do and then you go and sign this, for me is a no-no, right? The fear is if I don't sign it, somebody else will. So this is that vicious cycle we are in today where we do not know how to say no. And I think that is going to be the death knell of this industry going forward, where we will keep talking about everything what we want to do, but we will not follow that because we do not know how to say no. And in this, I'll just go back briefly to what the Tree of Life was all about. When I started it 10 years ago, I had 3 non-negotiables. 1, the maximum number of rooms I'll have in any one property will be 20. I will not do more than 20. 2, I will always be 5, 7, 10 kilometers outside the city, so never in the city center. 3, I will always be pet friendly. Right? And for the 13 years that I ran my business, I did not budge 1 inch from these. So when I finished my stint with Tree of Life last year, in 13 years, we had 15 hotels. These 15 could have been 50 easily. But I learned how to say no. And I think when you create a product which you think is worthy of change and of wanting to take it forward, you can't compromise on basics. And we didn't compromise on any 3 of these. Now, some tell me it's easier said than done. You were a small company. Yes, I know. But I think within the small company also and within the larger companies, take the Aman Resorts, for example, take Ritz-Carlton, for example, they stand by what they talk about. And that in our industry, honestly, is missing to a large extent. Because what industry today is probably wanting to do is ROI, return on investment. Guys like me, we come from ROE, return on experiences. So for us, the ROI is not important because I know what I want to create going forward and I will stick with my beliefs. So yes, size matters. I was small. I could manage to do what I did. And I'll tell you why I did when I sold my company when you go forward, because that's also equally important when you're going to create something which you want to move forward. Okay. I've already touched on eco-friendly and that sort of stuff. So I'm just going to leave it there. What today is happening when hotels are building their businesses, building their brands, they so conveniently palm it off to the guests. You know, the guest requires it, so that's why we're doing it. Sorry. Educate your guests and they will love you for that. And I'll give you a small example. In the Tree of Life, we one day decided not to serve any seafood items. Why? Because you cannot say my food is fresh and I'm not doing buffets, but then I'm sitting in probably Mussoorie or Jaipur where there is no fresh fish available. It comes stacked when. So we decided to take off all seafood items from our menu. The staff said, sir, there will be a backlash from the guests. I said, no. If you explain to the guest why we have done this, they will appreciate it. And sure enough, we got brownie points. Whenever guests would say fish, we tell them why we've taken it off the menu. So I think there are ways and means of doing things if you really want to do it, if you believe in it. But we are just so set in our ways, we don't want to take that risk that what will happen to my business. And I think you youngsters who are going to come out into the world, when you're going to create your own stuff, please bear in mind, your self-belief is your greatest weapon you can have. We are also now in a stage where I think heads to beds is now done with. Hotels can't be heads to beds anymore. So when you're creating a business which you want to send forward, you have to be part of that social fabric. You have no choice today. That is what the guest expects of you. And also understand, in today's day, I think we're in a very unique situation where you're catering as a hospitality person to 4 generations at the same time. You're catering to the baby boomers, you're catering to Gen X, you're catering to millennials, and you're catering to Gen Z. All 4 at the same time with very different parameters and expectations. And you've got Gen Alpha in the background catching up. So when the baby boomers go, you will have Gen Alpha coming in. So this is very unique industry today. What is my hotel positioning? I can't mean everything to everybody. So when you're creating a brand which you want to take forward, I think these are the things which you really want to keep in mind when you want to make something meaningful. Having said that, let's now move to this change. I, for all my life, have believed that we all can't stay on top forever. Unless you're an Ambani, Adani, Tatas, you will. But guys like you and me, the regular guys, wherever we are, we cannot stay on top forever. And that has been my belief in all the time. Whenever I did something, I reached the peak and I said, okay, time to go. Right? So for example, I was Chief Operating Officer of India's largest tourism brand. I'd been there 5 years. And when does change happen to you? Why do you want to change? I used to, after 5 years of being Chief Operating Officer, whenever I'd come to work, I would actually question myself. What am I gaining in this position? And what am I delivering to the company to make it grow? My answer was always a no. So that was the time I decided, I'm on top, it's time for me to go. And that's when I started in 2008, 9, 10 to launch the Tree of Life. And the Tree of Life started in 2009, 10. And I sold my company in 2023, so 13 odd years. Moved from 0 to 15 hotels, which, like I said, could have been 50. I didn't want that. And again in 2023, I started questioning myself once again, because we were a good brand in the boutique sector. We did what we believed in. I think we were reasonably good in what we did. That's when the question arose, am I going to be able to do something more with the brand as Himmat Anand? And the answer was no. Because if I wanted to grow further, I would just limp along one year to the other without adding any value to myself and to the brand. But on the other hand, I knew that the brand had huge potential to go forward, to make that change which they're talking about. I was so convinced that was the way. So when we started looking at who would take this baton forward, there were 3 people who we shortlisted. And I eventually sold my business to the person who offered me the least amount of money. People said, are you crazy? I mean, you've lost a few crores. But again, was the change being done to earn those few crores? Or was the change being done to hand over something which I've created for 15 years to somebody who I knew will take it forward? And I was so convinced that the brand had potential to go forward, I was the wrong guy for it. And I think this self-realization must come in all of us when we've reached somewhere where that is all what you can do and there is no harm in letting go. I think detachment is one of the amazing things if one of us has, each of us have. That's the best thing you can have in life. And I'm very detached from things. It doesn't matter to me. In the last 1 year, honestly, I haven't thought of the tree of life, which I started and lived with it for 15, 13 years. Not even once have I thought of it. So the brand was sold in November last year to a group who I knew had the potential to take it forward. What I'm hearing and reading in the press since last month is the Tree of Life from October is going to become a brand of the Taj Group as Tree of Life. They're going to take it over, an arrangement with the new owners. Now, what can be more fulfilling? Leave the money part aside for a moment. What can be more fulfilling that you've nurtured something for 13, 14 years, you knew it was time for you to go, and you've given it in the best hands to take it forward to the next level. So for me, nothing can be more satisfying, honestly, than having enjoyed every minute of what I did, believing in what I did, and then being equally strong to say, boss, time to let go, let somebody else take it forward. And I will enjoy sitting on the sideline, seeing where the Taj Group is going to take the brand, to whatever extent it will. I also had another fear in mind, and that was actually a fear when I was thinking of moving on. I had certain self-beliefs for 15 years, which I stuck by inch to inch. I did not budge from them. Now, when a brand becomes big, so let's say those 15 hotels become 30, which they can. I asked myself the question, would you still be able to maintain the ethos which you've developed and grown up with for 15 years? And if I honestly told myself, the answer was no. I would have to compromise. And when you know that you've believed in something for 15 years, how do you suddenly start compromising on it? So that was also a reason which led for me to say, this change has to happen. Let this change happen now. This is the right time for it to happen. Right? And it went to, like I said, now there will be an arrangement with the Taj Group, and Tree of Life will become a brand within the Taj Group. What they do with it, time will tell. Can they carry on running it the same way I ran it? No. Changes will happen. But then so be it. I did my bit. I've let it go into the best hands, I thought, and now it should carry on the way it will. At that stage of time, there was also talk, my son was with me, and there was also talk about leaving a legacy behind. Why don't you hand it over to your son? And I don't know why legacy is always considered to be with human beings. A brand can be a legacy in its own self. And that is why, for me, my legacy is the Tree of Life. To wherever it goes, it did not have to be a relative, it did not have to be family. That was my belief in what I created. So this is the change which happened with me the way it did, which I'm sharing with you. And as I end, I just want to make mention of something which is extremely close to my heart. When I started the Tree of Life, from day one in 2010, I said it will be a pet-friendly brand. All my industry people said don't, because at that time, pets were not really, if I may say, in fashion. It's only now in the last 5 years only, after COVID, pets have become very popular. At that time, hotels said no pets allowed. 99% of the hotel. And they said, and I asked them, what is the logic? Why can't I be a pet-friendly hotel? They said, you will lose regular business. And my call was, if I have to lose regular business, so be it. But I will still continue to be a pet-friendly brand. That was my belief in this segment, which remains even today. Right? I mean, they are the most amazing guests to have in your property. They don't damage anything. They don't crepe. They don't criticize. They don't do any chori, nothing. They are the best guests you can get in your hotel. And after I finished with the Tree of Life, I'm still carrying on with a dog story. That is something very small which I do on the side. It's just 4 properties is it, 2 rooms, 3 rooms. But the uniqueness of a dog story is you can stay there only if you're traveling with a pet. Otherwise, you can't stay there. Right? So all those guys who said pets not allowed, I said, okay, pets allowed, humans are not allowed if you're not traveling with a human. Take it in reverse. And in this case, the welcome letter, the offer letter goes out in the name of the pet. The welcome letter goes out in the name of the pet. The garlanding is done for the pet. The pet's menu is there. The human is there by default. We don't care for the humans there, honestly, in a dog story, right? So with that, I'm coming close to finishing up. I hope I've been able to share some things which are of interest to you and make the change worthwhile. But like I said, to make any change worthwhile, you first have to deliver something which actually is worthy of change. And then you think about giving it forward. Thank you so much.